All right, welcome everyone. Call the meeting to order. And we'll start with the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we do have one of our board members that is not here yet, so for the time being, we will call him necessarily absent. If he comes, then we'll let everyone know. Would like to start with some housekeeping matters. If you look to the right and left, you'll see the emergency exits. The restrooms are out in the lobby area. If you haven't done so already, please sign the attendance sheet at the back table. You'll also note back there, there are proposed resolutions for today's applications. There are also some business cards, if you like, you can take those. If you haven't done so already, please silence or turn off your cell phones so as not to disturb the hearing. And if you have any conversations that don't pertain directly to the meeting, please take them out in the hallway so as not to disturb the applications. As far as once we get going and you make your presentation, if there are exhibits that you want to use, just let us know and Susie will get them up on the screen. If they're new, let us know that they're new. We'll take a look at whatever you have just so that we can mark them accordingly. When you are referring to those exhibits, do your best to use descriptive language. Compass directions, north, south, east, or west, structures, roads, that's all very helpful. If you use terms like, if you notice over here and notice over there, that makes it hard for Amber here to create a record. And when we look at the minutes, it doesn't translate very well when you read it and it says over here and over there. So do your best to use descriptive language. We'll do our very best not to interrupt you, and if you would do the same, we won't interrupt you and vice versa. Again, this will help Amber create a good record. You need to know who you are. So who are you, where you live, who you're representing, and creating a good record always helps. If there are multiple people talking at the same time, not being rude, I will stop the meeting and we're going to speak one at a time. Okay? With that, next thing I'd like to take care of is approval of the October 7th, 2024 minutes. If everyone's had a chance to review those, I would entertain a motion for approval. If not, we can discuss.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Matt. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Leah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay. So first on the agenda is the Kubiak Sugar Farms. Come on up. So quick review. You're looking for an 8-foot pasture fence to contain your horses and also to keep those potential predators or bothersome animals away from the horses. You have a business.
Yes.
And the county planning board returned their opinion as far as it being exempt.
Yes.
There's also, I saw you did some homework. You have some people, a couple of, 3 emails. All 4, they seem to be very much in favor of it. Would you like to add anything else, talk about it? I think that was pretty much what we were looking for on
Yes,
what it
I'd
looked
hope so.
like. And
I don't have anything, excuse me, I don't have anything to add. The neighbors have always been quite supportive, and I like that they're there and they keep an eye out. So they were as concerned about the coyote infringement because they hear them.
Yeah.
And yes, I have the open acreage, but with the pastures that we have erected, the fences we have erected, it's interesting to watch the deer and the coyotes. They just kind of stand back and realize that they cannot go where they used to go. So I'm hoping that it does indeed do exactly what I'm hoping it will do. It will keep those mares and their babies safe.
I think you also said at the last meeting that, I don't think you put an exact number on it, no need to, but raising horses, it's a big investment. So
Correct.
protecting them away from those predators is in yours and their best interest.
And I think the reality is that because of the development of housing and infrastructures on Gillis Road, it has really restricted the movement of the animals, and I do have acreage behind me that is not developed. And I think that's kind of where they're hanging out. And then when they decide they're going to go north and cross Gillis Road to like the pipeline that goes up that area, I just think it's caused more of an infringement than we had anticipated. And the neighbors are feeling it, so I feel kind of justified to request this variance.
Great. Okay. Matt, questions, comments, concerns?
Nope, no further questions.
Larry?
None for me.
Leah?
None.
Right. As I indicated, county returned exempt, I think largely due you're in that ag district, or for the application, none against. So let's run through the criteria. An undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of the area variance. As we have discussed today, as well as the previous hearing, that raising horses is your business, it's a large investment. You're also concerned that a lower fence, or what would be permitted by the code, really wouldn't deter or keep the coyotes and other predators out, so an 8-foot fence certainly would do that. And I think I've covered that. Anyone want to add anything else to the first criteria?
Well, fencing is see-through because it has the little wires, so it still blends in. It doesn't change the character because you still see the pastures.
You can, yes,
and
it's
the
very, you
greenery.
don't, sometimes you don't know it's there, and you have to look twice, which I was actually pleasantly surprised that that's exactly, you could see all the way to the back of the property. We had one of the babies, the youngsters today, run right into the fence, he didn't even see it.
Yeah.
He's got all boo-boos all over himself, but he's fine, but I thought, oh, I didn't even think about that. But it also is for people looking into the property, you really don't see it.
All right, so let's phrase that as the wire fence would not create an undesirable appearance of fencing. Okay, we're good with that? Right. Anything else in the first criteria? Second, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. I can't think of any other way to address the issue other than what the applicant has presented of the 8-foot wire fence. Would anyone like to add or comment on the second justification?
Mike, possibly putting that safety of horses and motorists, if the horses escape the pasture, maybe even because of every reason they're spooked by the coyotes, it can cause an accident. Because I think at the last meeting, it was said sometimes that they would stray towards the roadway. So, and really more emphasize safety of the
All right, let's-
motorists, because I know safety isn't a big issue for this.
Let's put the increased protection for the horse investment. I'm, to phrase it as tight as you can. All right, is that good with everyone? Okay. Third, the requested area variance is not substantial. Asking for an 8-foot fence, wire fence, and given what we've talked about before, you're not going to be able to see it, or very difficult to see, so I don't consider this to be a substantial request. Would anyone like to add or comment on the third criteria? Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I'm not hearing, or we haven't seen anything remotely close to that type of fence would cause any kind of physical or environmental conditions issues in that neighborhood or district. Anyone like to add or comment on the fourth criteria? If the alleged difficulty is self-created, that in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean that a variance would be denied. With that, would anyone like to add any conditions for the proposed resolution we're going to consider? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Larry, second, please.
Second.
Leah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks so much for your patience and
Thank you.
information.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks. Good luck to you. Victor Heights, 115 and 117. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So the nutshell version you have is you want to sell off 117?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you'd like to subdivide it, and in doing so, you would need a variance really for both properties, should it all go through. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you. We have, as we requested, the purchase agreement, so that's in place. The county returned with comments. They're not recommending denial, but they're just suggesting that we follow the criteria, and as we do. Adam, it's my understanding you talked to our attorney, and do I have it right that if we're going to grant the variance, we need to grant two variances, one for the 115 and one for 117?
Correct.
And then we have to address that parking lot issue. So we need the variance or variances that address 115 and then 117.
Correct.
Should the purchase agreement fail, then all of these variances are null and void. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that gleaned from our attorney?
No, just that initially it will be, the resolutions will be written by property address and then possibly amended to include a tax parcel number once it is assigned, if the subdivision is to go through.
Yeah, okay.
Additionally, I took a look at there was a concern about that ramp.
Yep, okay.
It's really just an elevated sidewalk. It's no higher than the curb from the driveway to the rest of the sidewalk. I wouldn't consider it a structure.
Okay, so when we look at 115, the distance on the proposed lot line, the minimum distance is 9.5 feet. It's not counting that sidewalk area. So that's what really we should be looking at if the board decides to grant the variance. It's 9.5 feet.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so far so good?
You tell me, yes.
Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So now that we have the summary, now moving forward, anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to tell us? I'm not forcing you.
No, I think we've covered it all. I guess my one question I would have is that like, if that purchase agreement didn't go through for whatever reason, through no fault of my own, why would we have to like start the process again when we find a new buyer? Our intention, at least now, is definitely to sell, but if something happened and I couldn't sell to that person, or they just said, hey, we changed our mind, why would I have to like come back and go through this entire process again? What?
Because it's one parcel. If you're not going
Right,
to
well-
divide it,
So if he does the subdivision, if he was to receive the variance and then get subdivision approval, he wouldn't need to come back at that point. Those parcels would exist. Who owns them would be irrelevant.
right.
Right,
But
that's
I
all, okay, that's perfect then.
Okay, I misunderstood where you were going, that if the purchase agreement didn't go through and you didn't subdivide, that's a different animal.
Understood.
Okay, so we're on the same page with that. Okay, great.
But may I?
Go ahead, yep.
We were looking for the purchase agreement because it had to have certain language in it, correct?
I think,
Or not?
in my mind, I was looking for that was at least a legitimate deal that he was going forward with. He had a buyer
Okay.
in mind. Now, if those facts change a little bit and that buyer no longer wants it, but he's still going to subdivide it, now you have two separate parcels with a lot line, and even though the same owners, they still need variances because now the lot line is triggering the need for a variance.
So we would approve, if we approved a variance and then he subdivided, we're okay. If it didn't subdivide, then we're back at the beginning again.
The variances would be void.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Right? I guess, had you said that, and maybe we could have clarified that, if you weren't going to subdivide it, then
No, no,
going down the variance road wasn't going to make any sense.
yeah, I wouldn't be here asking for a variance, I wasn't subdividing it.
Okay. So I think that was good clarification. So Larry, do you have any questions, comments, concerns on this one? Do you want to circle back?
Did we have a question about parking setback?
I think we do need to talk about that a bit on how is that going to look and the need for a variance on, I don't have the big map.
Well, I guess where I'm going is I'm responding to his question. The question would be, we got the document, and the document has the setback in it. If he doesn't have the same buyer, we need to make sure that the new buyer's agreement has the same language. He would have to come back here in order for us to make sure that the language is the, see what I'm saying?
So my expectation would be that you wouldn't grant the subdivision without the language, I think the language you're referencing is the ingress and egress, the easements to get in and out and to share parking. So assuming we move forward with the subdivision, we're gonna need to do that no matter what, because those two properties have to like work together. There's no scenario where we could have two independent parcels and only have one driveway in and out. So we would 100% still put that agreement in place, like if we were to subdivide it.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure we understand what's going to happen. That,
Did you want to add anything else, Adam, on the parking issue?
Yeah, so because the height and area requirements require in the light industrial district a 5-foot minimum setback for parking, and parking is now going to transcend a lot line, second variance would be needed. So one for the building setback and one for the parking setback.
so is that 4 variances?
Technically, it's 2 for 2 separate parcels.
Got it.
Right, for
Each parcel would have 2
parcel,
variants.
Right.
or lot
So it's 4.
115 will need 2 variances, and for 117, 2 variances.
Right.
One with the, addressing the side setback, and the other addressing parking.
Correct.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Yeah, questions, comments?
Earlier, when we talked about that 9.5-foot distance, is that the distance now between the two buildings?
Well,
What
no,
was-
no, 115, building, lot 115, that distance is 9.5 feet.
Okay,
Is the smallest distance between the corner of the building and the lot
Okay.
line. 117, the smallest distance is 20.4 feet.
okay,
So that's another reason why that there needs to be specific language on each of those. Oh, sorry, 19.5 feet. Thank you.
I think the buildings are about 30 feet apart.
right. Okay, I just wanted to get that, and, okay, so no more questions, that's all I wanted to clarify.
Right. Matt?
No further questions.
Right. Anyone from the public want to speak for or against the application? Anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
I have to check with Susan. What are we doing over there in this one? We're good? All right. All right, so let's take a look at, we'll do language for 115.
I misspoke, Mike. I just wanted to clear the
ahead.
record that it's a 10-foot parking lot setback, not 5 foot. I apologize.
I don't see that in our resolution here.
And we have to add it, but I did re-advertise for it.
All right, so the 10-foot parking, we have that language, the 10-foot parking issue? Okay. All right, so first we'll draft the proposed resolution for 115. All right, so the undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties by creating the granting of the area variance. The distance required for 115 is 9.5 feet for the side setback. And they need a shared parking for 117 of 10 feet. There is a proposed purchase agreement for 117. Is that right? 117 you're selling?
Yes.
Okay, so proposed purchase agreement for 117, and the buyer's in agreement with both the shared parking and the side setback issues. County returned with comments on addressing the criteria, and no one spoke for or against the application. Would anyone like to add or comment on the first criteria? All right, hearing none. Number 2, the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. And I think this was fleshed out in the prior meeting, that due to economic issues, the seller of 115 and 117 is choosing to sell 117, and in doing so, they would need a relief for the side setback issue. So there is really no other way that they can accomplish this other than by subdividing the property. Would anyone want to speak or address, comment on the second criteria? All right, third, the area variance is substantial. Given the nature and the distance where 30 feet is required, and for 115, they're asking for 9.5 feet, it should and would be considered substantial. Would anyone like to comment on the third criteria? No. Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I haven't heard anything on subdividing this property and the distances that they're asking for the site setback would have any kind of impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Any further comments or questions on the fourth criteria? Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. That in and of itself would not, should not deter this board from denying or granting the variance. Would anyone like to add any further conditions to the variances for 115? All right, hearing none. I would entertain a motion for approval for 2 variances for 115.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Larry.
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. All right, then to expedite it, the rationale for 117 will be the same with the exception of the distance. The side setback is 19.5 feet. And also the same then, 10 feet for the shared parking. So unless someone wants to comment or add anything onto the criteria that we walked through for 115. Anyone?
Nope.
Nope, we're good?
Just the variance, I don't know if you want to get the measurement in the resolution. The variance for the parking would be from 10 feet to 0.
Okay, for 117 would be 0.
For both, because the parking transcends.
All right,
the
I
parking.
misspoke. So, yeah, let's do that. So it's 0 for both 115 and 117. All right. With those corrections, we're all good? Entertain a motion for approval for 117.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Larry. A second, please.
Aye, Leah.
Thank you, Leah. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Good. Thanks so much.
Thank you, appreciate
Thanks for
it.
your cooperation and help with this. Next, come on up. Yeah. So this is for 51 Heights Parkway. Ulcer and Nickel?
Yes.
You know this has to go to the county, which we can't, we're precluded from addressing the resolution today, but we would love to hear about the application for our sake and also for the county's sake on what's this about. So the next time we meet will be December 2nd, and we may have a few more questions, but, so why don't you tell us about the project?
Great. Yeah, thank you. My name is Matt Tomlinson with Marathon Engineering, and I'm joined by John and Eric representing the purchaser of the property. Right now, they have a purchase contract and an agreement in place to buy the property, and part of that is completing a due diligence period for the development of the parcel. And if I can direct the board's attention to this plan that's up on the screen currently, as mentioned, 51 Victor Heights Parkway, north is to the right on this plan. And back in 1991, when I believe the building was originally built and approved, there were 2 expansions shown on that parcel, one of which has been built with the jut out of the office space. The loop road around it has been built, and this portion was shown as a second phase of expansion and never built. So part of their due diligence and part of their desire to relocate portions of their business here is predicated on having enough space for that business to appear. And so in some of that due diligence discussion with the town, come to find out that there doesn't appear to be a record of the approvals for that with the town. And so we have not only made application to this board for approval for the 2 variances that I'll talk about in a minute, but we're also appearing before the planning board at next week's planning board meeting on November 12th, which does happen to fall after the county meeting, is my understanding. So part of our reason or desire to be before this board today was to flesh out any potential issues that may give the planning board a comfort level to take action from a site plan perspective, in addition to setting the table for potentially obtaining approval for the variances at your next meeting. So this plan that's currently shown now has north up, and I apologize for the change in orientation, but the existing building that I mentioned, I'm outlining here with the pointer, and the proposed 20,000 square foot addition that matches the previous plan is shown on the west side of that parcel, with essentially no change to the existing limits of gravel that are out there today surrounding the parcel. And we also found out that a portion of the apartment buildings to the west are currently residential zoning, which you can see the limit here is the only portion of residential that touches. So on the maps that we submitted to you, there's a 100-foot setback and a 100-foot buffer requirement anytime light industrial is adjacent to a residential property. So again, we're really not changing what was shown on the map and what we believe was approved and partially constructed back in 1991, but we're here to clear up the record, if you will, as it relates to those approvals. There is an overall aerial map that maybe could be brought up on the screen. And I just wanted to show the board quickly the building that we're talking about and the existing paving or gravel that you can see. Again, those are really no change to those limits that are proposed. And the residential zoning to our west really is just a drive aisle for access to apartments that are significantly further away from the property. So We're not immediately adjacent to any type of residential use over there that would, we think, have a concern with the project. So what are the numbers that we're asking for? Again, a 100-foot buffer, meaning a 100-foot separation to any type of paved surface. We are asking for a reduction of that to 44 feet, and that's to create a 20-foot drive aisle over the existing gravel drive along that west portion and relocate a small section of storm sewer that the addition will clip. And then for the proposed building itself, we're requesting that to be reduced to 65 feet. And again, that dimension is in keeping with the original plan from 1991. So that's the broad overview of what we're looking for. And again, with the purchase offer and what are both the seller and the buyer of the property's understanding of what was previously approved, we feel that there would not be any change, detrimental change to the neighborhood or impact to neighbors that wasn't already contemplated and or previously felt by construction of that gravel loop and the building of the building. So with that, I'd love to answer any questions that the board may have, and if I don't have the answer, I'm sure prospective buyer who's here with me would.
Okay, Matt, questions, comments?
So I understand there's, back in the late 90s, you're saying the project was proposed and approved?
We're assuming there was an approval because a portion of the building was built. My understanding in talking with Mr. Maynard, and I think Adam's done some research on it as well, is that there doesn't appear to be a record of that with the town.
There's no minutes, there's no
Yeah,
anything?
we couldn't find any record, and we would have honored anything they would have been able to produce, but this site plan is the only thing that exists, and unfortunately, the copy that has been provided doesn't bear any signatures, so it's hard for us to say.
Sure, so I mean, Mike, are we looking at this really just as hearsay then? I mean, if we don't have anything that, maybe we didn't, and just kind of, are we discussing the facts that are in front of us? Is it
Yeah, I
move
think,
forward, or?
yeah, we can hear it, but if you're saying it happened back in 1991, and that's all it is your word, no letters, no emails, nothing, it's hard for us then to, take it as a fact, other than just, it happened sometime in the past.
Yep, completely understood, and that's part of the reason we're here again, is to get something on the record for an approval, because my client doesn't want to invest an awful lot of money without knowing that these entitlements are in place, obviously, and also making sure that we work with the town to not legalize, but essentially legalize and the future improvement that we're hoping to make to the
Basing
property.
1991 on.
That's the date on the map that was provided.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, correct, yeah. I believe that's when the original first portion, which is the north half of the building, was constructed. The addition to the south with the office bump out, we're not entirely sure what date that was constructed, again, without kind of a permit path at the town. And then obviously the site sits that way today.
The building's vacant today?
It's vacant today.
What is the new business that is gonna go in?
John, you want to come up and explain that a little bit?
How you doing? John Patterson. Been with Polster and Jacob for many years, where I oversee the manufacturing of sheet metal ductwork. As part of our business, we're a full-blown mechanical contractor, piping, HVAC, plumbing. So this facility would house the home for the ductwork manufacturing side.
And it obviously requires the expansion piece of it.
It is, yeah. The seller represented to us that this was, a part of the approval back in, I think, 97 or 94. So with the square footage, with the addition, with the existing building, it would work for our footprint. Without it, it won't work.
Okay, other than, I'm assuming then you're complying with all other, like zoning, sprinklers and all those types of signage, and really this is the only two, I think, variances you're seeking
Yeah,
for the
correct.
property
Only
itself?
two. Yep, no need to expand parking. These guys are gonna have 25 to 30 roughly employees in there. So there's more than enough parking that's on site currently. We've reviewed the rest of the zoning regulations, including the overlays, with staff to make sure that these are the only ones.
I know, obviously, one of the reasons for the 100-foot buffer, right, is often sound, especially from a manufacturing facility. What, I hear sheet metal, I mean, what,
Sure.
what type of, how loud do you expect the operation to be from outside?
So the way the building is situated with flow for materials in and out, the existing building, the pound-up area, if you will be to the east and center of the building, to the, yep, the west is to the, yep, right there. That would be where the air hammers would be going to pound the ductwork together. The new addition is going to be for warehousing, storing of the material, and shipping and receiving, with also 2 spiral machines, which don't really make any noise.
Okay, so are you okay if if maybe there was a condition that in the expansion, there was no manufacturing being done there?
There's 2 spiral machines that we purchased, and they go back to back. Half of that footprint will be for the spiral machines running, but like I said, there's really no noise at all with that. There's no pounding, it's an automatic feed, an oil system, there's no noise. Then the other half of that would be where we'd store the finished product and ship it. So we do need half the building, 10,000 square foot, for the spiral machines.
Okay, maybe we could craft something that is a condition to not have what was the machine you called, not the spiraling machine, the other one?
Spiral, it makes round.
No, the other one, sorry, the other machine, the,
No, so the air side, the
Yeah, what's that called?
pound-up side.
The pound-up side.
Yeah, that's, like you said, that's for putting rectangular fittings together. It's hammering over a lock, but that's the only noise that's being generated in the whole manufacturing process.
and the reduction to 65 feet is to the already existing building?
No, that's to the new wall.
To the new one,
Our
and
addition
the
is on
reduction to the
west side.
45, so they're both to the new building.
The
44,
44 is
yeah.
basically to the existing gravel drive,
Okay.
which we have to pave as, again, for code compliance. But the 65 feet is to the west wall of the building, which would be on.
Got it, okay. I'm all set for now, thank you.
Larry, questions?
Help me understand how you got this. So there's a 65-foot variance. The new building's 125 foot wide. Why couldn't you just build it at 90 and make it longer?
90 and make it longer, so if we could switch back to our site plan. I don't know if there's any constraints as it relates to the interior operation of the building, which we can have, again, John speak to. I'm sorry, the site plan that we submitted with the buffer on it, C 1.0, yeah, there you go. So, yep, that's right. Oh, sure. Yep, sorry. So the limit of the residential kind of just comes up to the corner, and then what we're representing as that 100-foot setback or buffer really only clips that south west corner of the building. And so to go longer either brings it down and impacts turn movements. There's loading dock doors along that wall right there for access. And then going north, there's also loading dock here, and it would push it far enough up that we wouldn't be able to circulate or get vehicles for loading, for shipping out that door. So from a site constraint standpoint, again, number one, we're trying to stay consistent with what the original intent of the building was. And number two, we're trying to, from a circulation exterior on the site, make it work for material coming in one side of the building, going out the other as these folks put it together.
That parcel to the south of the proposed addition is residential as well. Is that accurate?
It's
I believe
residential use, but I believe it is a light industrial zoning, the same
So
as
it's
our park.
pre-existing?
Correct. Yeah, so the actual zoning line, and again, it's for just a driveway of the apartments within that 100 feet on that side is where the residential is.
Okay, you answered my question, thank you.
Yeah, questions?
No questions.
Okay.
That side, so by making the
Starts encroaching. Yeah, there's also, yeah, thanks, John. There's also some utility easements and ingress egress easements constraining the north portion of that parcel as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so your client's current business is located where?
We're,
John can stay up here with me.
Sure.
we are in Gates, New York, off Pixley Industrial Parkway, 40 Industrial Parkway.
Reason why you're moving?
Too small. We've outgrown it.
No, any work that you do is all inside?
All of it, yes.
Right. In your current location, how close are you to residential areas? Within 50,
We're-
60, 100 feet?
We're in an industrial park where we are currently.
Okay.
We currently, that's where our main business is run, but we currently have at least 2 other places because we've grown. So we're in 3 different locations. This footprint allows us to put everything into one.
All, if I've asked this already, I apologize. All the work that you do, it's all inside the building. There's no exterior work, all is done inside.
Yep. Yes.
Would you, and I can't speak for the rest of the board, would you consider putting more insulation on those exterior walls that are within that 100-foot area of the residential areas to further minimize any kind of noise impact that may be occurring during your business hours? Just something to think about, and I think the board will think about it as well, but it sounds like you would consider doing that.
Yes, I mean, to me, anything to lessen the disturbance, right, to the apartment buildings near us. The building construction we're talking about is, 4 to 6 foot concrete block, and then a manufactured engineered steel building above, which would be insulated. There'd be an interior wall membrane on it to match the rest of the building on the inside.
Mike, would you be able to write that condition based on the receipt of a complaint? Because you're assuming the noise is going to be an issue, but it may not.
Right, it may not. Well, could you retrofit it? If there were a complaint in that neighborhood, in that area that you're encroaching, neighbors say we can hear it, et cetera, is it possible then to say, all right, we can retrofit, we get more insulation on those walls?
Yeah, there's a product, sound deadening or something we could
Okay.
put on, not insulation, but it's a sound deadening.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like any project, we'd be required to be in compliance with the noise ordinance for Town of Victor level of noise at the
Right.
property line. It is definable, meaning if there is a complaint, obviously there'd be a way to measure and see if it's coming from. The other thing that I would mention, which I did not, which I think is important, is from the edge of gravel that's out there today up to the property line, it's about 12 feet higher. So it's not a berm per se, but we sit down quite a bit, and there's a good-sized bank with vegetation on top of it that will help to attenuate any
Trees and
potential
brush
noise
and-
as well.
Right.
And we're leaving that limits alone. We're only going to the gravel limit.
I thought the way you also described it was that the machinery that would be producing the noise is in the building that exists today, so
Correct.
I'm kind of looking at it as,
But
The
there's
new-
there's 2
the new-
pieces of machinery.
but the new build, but the one machinery you said didn't really make any noise. It
Our
was,
machines make no noise.
so I'm kind of looking at it as the expansion is sound dampening for, I mean, right, I mean, it's.
It would be.
It would be sound dampening for the
Right.
other building.
If we had there's two doors facing west now in the existing building, that would be the shipping and receiving. They'd be open most of the time. The noise from the pound, you would probably hear that versus where if you had the building, the addition, it would probably help.
All right, so I look on the plan, it looks like P. Joseph Pullen. You tried to contact?
Yes.
Nothing? You can't find
So that
them?
was the architect, right? That was the name on the plan? Yeah.
Well, P. I'm presuming it's an engineer, not an architect. If
Right.
that was an architect, if you tell an architect and an engineer, the same thing could have a fit.
We did. We actually spent a bunch of time trying to find these documents that supposedly existed. And he's out of business. Our broker somehow came up with documentation that, I'm not sure the year they went out of business, but we couldn't get any information from them or any person. to talk to. So,
Who did the research for you? I'm trying to find,
I did research down here, the town of Victor myself, and then Todd Myers, our broker, was down here also doing research.
what I'm looking at is, who did the due diligence to try and find the PD, this Joseph Pullen? And
Myself and Todd Myers.
Okay, I just don't want you telling us, it's like, somebody in their office did it and they're not here.
Yeah.
You did it personally, and you provided due diligence, you're trying to find this individual, you're telling us he's out of business. That board needs to consider that if that's sufficient.
Yeah,
Is there any-
that's factual.
all right. Anyone from the board want further research on that, or is that sufficient that the amount of research that they've done, that they just can't find the engineer, and they've done sufficient due diligence that all that they have is a drawing that says 1991, and that's the best they have? That's sufficient for everyone? Okay. All right. I think you've answered all of my questions. Anything else you want to add?
No, just that we, again, are going to be before the planning board next week, hoping to check one item off the box because county will have made findings. So, not that the board can give us a decision without being able to give a decision, but if there's any questions that we've left off or that you can provide general recommendation or otherwise, I'll say to the planning board, because what we don't want to have happen is go to the planning board and they say, well, we got to wait for the zoning board and vice versa. I know you guys operate independently, but we are trying to make sure we get through the due diligence period as quickly as we can.
Understood. We have, as a board, that if we find or the need to give the applicant some homework, could you provide X, Y, Z? We let them know. What we don't have is what the county planning board will do. If they comes back exempt, okay. If it comes back as a recommended denial, you know that, we treat it differently.
Sure.
My understanding too is that the planning board could give you a conditional approval based on the approval of the variances. So wouldn't necessarily delay you, because they can't give a final, you're not gonna get a final site plan approved without an approved variance. A final site plan signed, excuse
I
me.
won't get the plan signed. Correct, yep. Yeah, because this is a one-step for the site plan.
So if you were to
With the
satisfy the
board, so.
planning board at next week's meeting, they can give a conditional approval.
County planning, their actual meeting's on Wednesday night next week.
I
They
apologize.
have their workshop meeting on Tuesdays.
I apologize.
Okay, we're good for now? All right. And we'll see you on December 2nd.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Mr. Criticos, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Mike. How are you tonight?
Good. Storybrook. You want to put a new building on the lot?
Correct.
And you know the drill. County Planning Board needs to take a look at it, so we'll take as much information as you can give us, ask some questions, and then when County Planning Board comes back with their 2 cents, we'll discuss that on December 2nd.
Perfect.
So what do you got for us?
I'm James Kritikos. I'm with BME Associates. Also here with me this evening is Dr. Ann Lill. She's the owner of Storybrook Farm. And Dan Peters, he's with Lobella Associates. He's the architect for the project. What we're here tonight to ask from this board is a front setback reduction along Rowley Road to the east of our building. Right now, our building sits approximately a foot off that front setback line, which is an 80-foot requirement. We're looking to do some building additions to expand their existing facility. They have growing need and demand. I believe there's only 1 of 2 veterinary offices in Victor. Based on their need, like I said, we're looking to do 2 building additions that kind of clip that front setback. The first one is just a front entrance canopy. This is the one that's closer to the road. This is what's driving our request for a 73-foot relief. It's going to be approximately 74 feet. We're just giving ourselves an extra foot of flexibility with building overhangs while we finalize the building architecture. The second addition is at the northeast corner of the building. It is what I'll refer to as the barn silo feature, the circular feature here. This is a single-story addition that is going to be for primarily waiting space as well as a flex space in the building. As of today, we're basically doing all of our expansions to the north and south sides of the building. So the north side is going to expand into an already enclosed fence area with the exception of the silo feature. And then the south side additions are going to push into the parking lot a little bit and eat up a little room. We do have some other site plan improvements or site improvements as part of this. We're going to be building some ADA parking spaces in the front of the building. If you guys have been to the site, you'll know the parking lot has a pretty good slope to it, especially as you come into the drive and then park in any of the spots. Basically, nothing's ADA compliant. So to do that, the easiest way to make this all work without having to rip up the entire parking lot and regrade it and do a ton of earthwork is to put the parking basically in the front yard. That request for that parking reduction is going to be with the planning board since they have the ability to do that. Besides that, we're not pushing any further to the north property line, which is actually owned by the town of Victor. This is the little park cemetery that kind of sits tucked in on that bend between the car wash on the north side of Raleigh Road as well as Burger King to our west. We're not pushing anything with development further north toward that parks. The existing fence line for the rear kennel area is staying the same. We are going to be relocating one of the existing kennel structures within those fence limits. We're basically just going to push it about 10 to 15 feet closer to that existing fence, but still within it. That allows us to do the rest of the building additions on the north side. Besides that, we're really not doing anything else. The need is really just from the growing business. They've been here about 40 years in Victor. Dr. Ann Lill's looking to kind of expand the building. We originally considered building another structure on the site, but due to kind of just the economics and the feasibility of that, this is really the best way for them to expand their facility to meet the needs of the clientele while also continuing to serve, all the employees and everything there. I can go through the 5 factors of consideration that are in the letter, but I think I'll just let you guys ask questions first and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Leah, questions, comments, concerns?
Come back to me.
Okay, Larry, what do you got?
Variance is just for the overhang?
And the silo feature. So the front overhang, we're going to come out about 7 feet into the front setback or so, and then the overhang comes out about 6 feet. So it's just step back a little bit. I don't know if you can zoom in on that a little bit, or if you can kind of see where the line comes right down there. So that front setback. So it's just this tiny little piece of that circular feature as well as the little addition that's on there. Amber, did you get the rendering that I submitted to you? Could you pull the color rendering? Yeah. Did you have it?
Actually, I don't think it's on the slideshow, but they do have it printed.
So if you got the color rendering here, so basically just this tiny portion right here, that'll feature really all we're asking for the variance for. Everything else complies with the code, the underlying setbacks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And so you're looking for less than a 10% variance, right? You need 7 feet.
Yep.
What it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's just adding the architecture feature to the building. I mean, we can live without the overhang if needed. Obviously, we think it's an improvement, lets them kind of get to the front door without having a pet or a carrier out of the rain if it's raining, so they can open, get into the business. And then the waiting area, the silo feature, like I said, it's just to give them more space. If you're in that waiting room today, I've been there, a patron of them for a long, long time. It is a little small if it's crowded in there. If you have a couple big dogs and, cats and stuff, it can be a little, they need a little more room, is all.
No, there isn't a month or two that goes by where I'm not in the waiting room with a dog or a cat myself, so I have no further questions.
I echo that. I've been taking my pets there for a long time, and it can be a challenge when there's a couple of cats, a big dog, a small dog. The fish don't seem to mind. So yes, I can understand the need for some more breathing room, some more inside space. Also, I think how that's set up is to assist then when you leave, to help then the pet owner and pets to exit, enter. At times, it can get a little log jammed and a little, occasional kerfuffles happen.
Correct.
I don't know how you're going to spell that, but that's all right. All right, and then parking, it makes a lot of sense. So other than that, the drawings are good, they're helpful, spelling it out, it's been great. Leah, you want to come back, questions, you're good?
No, I'm
All right,
good.
we may, you know the drill, when we see what the county has to say, there may be some follow-up questions, but the detail that you have here, as well as how you've laid out the criteria has been helpful.
Perfect.
Unless you want
I'm-
to add something, I think we're good.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm hoping the county doesn't have anything to say. We know their regular meeting is next Wednesday. We are on the planning board next Tuesday for site plan, so we're under the impression that they won't be acting either for the same reason as you guys.
If you haven't done so, if you just drive by it, I think you'll see that it's nestled in a little area. It's in is that light industrial there?
Commercial.
It's commercial
It's
zone.
commercial, okay. There's really not a lot on Raleigh Road. So I don't know who's really seeing it unless you go there.
Correct.
Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, you are good.
Great. Anyone else? We're good? We're good?
Perfect. Well, we'll see you guys in a month, in beginning of December, and we'll go from there.
That's good.
Thank you
Thanks
all
so
very
much.
much.
All right, does anyone have anything else for the board to discuss? Nope. Adam, you're good? Good. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Larry, a second.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful, thank you so much, have a good evening.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.